let's if you don't mind, let's jump right in. Obviously,
Yeah.
I didn't want to butcher your last name, so I'll let you introduce yourself, and then let's talk about Folsom Street.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm Angel Adeyoha. I'm the executive director of Folsom Street. I was asked to be interim executive director last February, but then, as you know, March happened. So I did take on the position, but in a very, very different world than I had hoped to. So after having served for interim for a year, the board voted to make me the official executive director, which is exciting and not just a little bit of pressure, I would say. But I'm really excited about helping shape what comes next for Folsom Street. We've opened a community center that officially opens in July. We've kind of restructured the way that we're doing our events this year to be more friendly to the kind of liminal space that we're in between pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, but knowing that we're still, while we're past the crisis point, especially here in the Bay, that we're still in a global pandemic and paying attention to that and the public health implications, and also really shifting the way that we prioritize marginalized community members and whose voices we uplift in all of this work. So it's been an exciting year, even though it's also been super challenging.
So let's talk about in 2021, what events are you guys actually holding any events this year?
Yeah.
And what's that going to look like?
So we have co-hosted a couple of smaller events, a couple of little art fairs with the LGBTQ and Leather Cultural District, as well as the Soma West Community Benefit District, called Soma Second Saturdays. It's a much smaller kind of block party vibe. And it's been a good way to sort of like shake the cobwebs off from last year being all digital. So we are hosting in July. We usually host an event called Up Your Alley. It's been going steadily since 1985. And as we had to take a digital break last year and we're kind of early in the calendar this year, we're doing a different event same Sunday called Folsom Street Market. It's going to be very vendor focused, but it's also very community focused. It's a chance to come out and connect and be with people. Also a chance to gear up for September, because you got to come correct in September. So in September, when we would be holding Folsom Street Fair, we are holding a street fair. We're calling it Megahood 2021 because Megahood was our first fair back in 1984. So we want to really make it clear to folks that we're doing an intentional return to our roots. So our roots as both a community organization and an organization that people can count on to bring people together during times of crisis, because we were founded in the AIDS crisis. So we're evenly split between making sure that people have a joyous, reflective, good time, and also that we provide a really good public health grounding so that people know what steps to take to make themselves safer, know how it's safest to interact. We're working with the City Department of Public Health in San Francisco to provide on-site vaccination and COVID testing and safer sex education. We also work with a lot of local nonprofits that provide safer sex ed and resources specifically that have provided a lot of resources around COVID and how hard it's hit our community, particularly the nightlife community. So we're trying to balance those things out this year. But we are absolutely going to be in the streets. We are absolutely going to welcome people with joy. Usually we have some pretty big entertainment factors, but we're shifting away from sort of larger imported entertainment. And this year we're just doing community stages. I shouldn't say just, we are doing community stages and I'm very excited about it. So each stage will have a theme and each stage will be managed by a different part of our community, and will feature different parts of the kink and leather and alt sex community. So it's really a chance to come out and see what our community is made up of. See people, doing great and fun demos, amazing performances, some of our really fun music and DJs that are local and in our community. So that's going to be part of our September event. The other part is obviously the booths that people know and love, where you get to connect with both community organizations, amazing artists and artisans from around the world. Again, a chance to, show up and show out, come out in your gear, see each other, be pretty. It's important to us.
In the past, this obviously, like you said, this has been going on since 1984. Mm-hmm. And I've never had the pleasure of going. I'm hoping to get to go. But I've seen the pictures and videos. This was a very, very large event. So yeah. Are you thinking that Mega Hood's going to be typical as far as size goes, or is it being scaled down at all?
So the way that we've handled that, we had to be pretty creative about this, because one of the things is we're an event that's open to the public. We're on a public city street. We cannot deny people coming through our fair. So what that means is that we can't intentionally limit attendance the way you could at a ticketed event. So instead, what we've done is we've created a very different reduced content footprint in the same container. So the container remains the same size. We're still taking up the same number of blocks, but our what we're putting in the container is less, which means that every person, should all 200,000 plus show up.
Woo!
Honestly, I don't see it happening this year for a multitude of reasons. I think that people are traveling less because a lot of people lost a lot of money during COVID. People are doing, people are taking their time to recover from the intense trauma of the last year. Sorry. And I'm sure you can edit that, right? People are taking time to recover from the trauma of the last year. And I think people are cautiously re-entering social spaces. I don't think everybody's plunging back in. Obviously, some people are. But I think so I think we will see reduced attendance. And I also think that we'll see, we are well prepared if the same number of people show up to give everybody a lot more physical room, so that there is room for people to distance if they're not vaccinated yet. There's room for people to feel comfortable. We're encouraging people to wear masks. We'll have some really cool ones there for people to buy, and a free mask if you didn't bring one. So yeah, we're trying to strike that balance as people ease back into social events. Our other saving graces were outdoors. And the incidence of COVID cases transmission in outdoor settings is very low. So that's lucky. The other thing is San Francisco has already hit a 70% vaccination rate. And so our city is doing quite well. And we hope that the folks who visit take a cue from that.
So with talking about the container space, the size that you normally have, I guess one of the ways to reduce that just going to be maybe less vendors, so they have more space in between.
Right, and we're going to stagger the booths so that you say you've not been, so I'll explain. Usually, it's kind of a corridor of booths, and people are very tightly packed on either side of the booths. I don't know if you've ever been to any of these kind of large-scale street events like Mardi Gras, for instance.
I have.
Right, these places where you're just wall-to-wall humans. So instead of that, we're staggering the booths in a zipper formation, so that there's room to sort of wander through this way. So there's more room for the places where people pool up to be less tightly packed. So I think that's one of the things that we've done. We have reduced our content amount. We are booking less vendors this year. And like I said, changing from like a main stage and then a big dance area model to a community stage model. Because one of the things that happens at our fairs, which is great, but often a little difficult to manage from a safety perspective is we'll get really big crowds for some of our large headliners. It's almost like having a music festival in the middle of a street fair, which is a little hard to manage. So we're shifting that model this year, and we're looking at what we might bring back that'll be more manageable in that way in the future. But this year, we're having community stages where we don't expect people to come who aren't interested in our community, but are just interested in the music, which, you know, we love that overlap, but we definitely would get a lot of folks who would just like show up, who were showing up for the band. And that would cause a really intense density issue in front of that stage, and sometimes at the secondary dance stage as well. So we're working on improving our traffic flow, improving the way that we give people enough room for each individual body, and counting on the fact that we're probably going to see diminished attendance this year.
Nice. So it's, you know, I didn't know that it wasn't a ticketed event. So just pretty much anyone can just show up and come enjoy.
Correct. We are on a public city street, and it is illegal to block a public city street to the public. We have suggested donation at every gate. We have folks there to entertain you and lure the money out of your wallet into our buckets. We have since our founding in 1984, we've donated over $7 million to nonprofits in our community. Thank you. We've done some really big community work over the years, and the big work that we're doing this year is founding our community center. So this year we're raising funds both to make that community center a permanent fixture in Soma, but also to restabilize our organization after last year, because last year we had to take on a significant amount of debt to stay around. If we hadn't stayed around last year, it would have been very, very difficult for us to come back this year. So just keep our little tiny machine running. I think people think we're bigger than we are because our fair is so large, and because we are the second largest outdoor event in Northern California, right below SF Pride. But we are usually a staff of 3, and we are currently a staff of 2, hoping to hire one more on in a month or so. So we are very small in production, right? And what that means is partnering with a lot of the community. Folsom Street is not a content producer. We're a umbrella. We're a container, and we're continuing that theme by providing our community center space to smaller organizations, nonprofits, and others who are finding it more and more difficult to find in-person space in San Francisco that they can afford. San Francisco is outrageously expensive, and a lot of our best resources get gentrified out as a result. So one of the things that we're really invested in doing is rooting in this neighborhood that we have been an active part of for 38 years. It'll be 40 in 2023. I can't wait for that birthday. And making sure that we can provide that platform and container for folks.
That's awesome. I can't imagine what it's like to put on that kind of event. 200,000 people. Is it mostly volunteers that you get to come do that?
So we have been only volunteer run for about 35 of our about to be 38 years. We started incorporating hired in labor from a local nonprofit that serves folks who are positive with HIV, called Positive Resource Center, and from other sources like a greening service. So we have started in the last several years, we've started balancing out what is appropriate for volunteers and what is appropriate to hire. This year, due to intense attrition because of the pandemic and everything else being kind of, it was a good time for a shift. So we are hiring in a lot more than we usually would this year. We are reordering what our priorities are around labor. And while we intensely appreciate the volunteer labor that has been provided over the years, I've been a volunteer for Folsom for years and years. I was an associate board member and then a board member before taking on this role. So I have volunteered and I've done this job pro bono in the last year for about half the time. So I volunteered a lot of my own time for this organization because I love this organization. It's dear to my heart. And I know that's why the other volunteers show up for us. And we are reevaluating what type of work is safer and more appropriate for paid staff. What that includes are the people who direct the traffic and close the streets. Our medical staffing, especially this year, it didn't feel ethical to ask for medical volunteers because everyone in medicine has had maybe their worst year ever. So this year we're doing paid medical. And looking at how that money that we spend also goes back into our communities, and intentionally constantly evaluating who we hire, what we pay, are we doing the best we can with that? So I think that's one of the ways that we're constantly looking for accountability to our community with ourselves.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I don't think, and I say this when I talk to other people who put on events, and even when you talk to someone whose event maybe only 200 or 300, the scale between 200 or 300, 200,000 is a huge difference. But I just don't think most people understand or can fathom the depth of what it takes to put something like this on. So we're just grateful that, that there's people like you who work hard and volunteer. And even if, there's no calling in sick when it's time to when it's time to do the show on the road, you have to just do it. And so we're so glad. Is there anything that you would want the FTK community to really know if they're going to come out and show support? Obviously, we'll ask every FTK member, if you do go, to donate. Don't be cheap. Put some in the bucket.
That's right. Put some in the bucket. We even take credit cards at the gate now. You just tap it and sail on in. Also, when you do that, usually you'll get a sticker that gets you a discount at our beverage booths, but we're not selling alcohol this year, both in support of our local bars, which had the worst year they've ever had. And from a safety perspective, it feels easier to take a break from that for a year. So you'll get a special drink at local bars that are participating. You'll get a little map that tells you where you can go and get your discount with your sticker. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so you get something for your donation. But also, we would ask for folks to really, if you're traveling from far away, please go get your vaccine. Keep us and your community safe. That's super important. Also, bear in mind that our entire community has had a really intensely hard year financially and otherwise, but our nightlife community has been hit probably harder than ever in my lifetime. And so go out to the local restaurants, to the local bars, buy stuff from the merchants,
support the community.
Come and support the community, because when you say what it takes to put this on, what it takes is the community. This doesn't exist without, when I say we make a container, we couldn't possibly fill this container. Yeah. We just make the container and it is filled with our incredibly talented, really entertaining and cool community. So that's what it takes. So come and specifically keep it weird, show up in whatever makes you feel the most you. Know that this is the one place maybe in the world where you will not be judged or discriminated against or thought of as too weird. Good luck with that one. You can just kind of show up however you feel most embodied, most sexy, most yourself. That's what you can bring to Folsom Street.
That is awesome. How many blocks is it?
Oh gosh, so we're 5 going one way, and then we take up the side streets. So I guess it's a total of 11. Don't quote me on that. I believe it's 11.
Well, there's quite a bit. There's a lot of space there. Absolutely,
it's a lot of space. And there's a lot of things within that space. There are local merchants and bars and restaurants. So you can also just sort of wander a little piece of our neighborhood in San Francisco. So South of Market, which when you hear people say SOMA, it's short for South of Market. And has been our rooted neighborhood since the 80s. And even before, the leather community has always had a really strong presence in South of Market in San Francisco. So that's where a lot of the oldest leather bars are. Come visit the Powerhouse, visit the Eagle, visit the Hole in the Wall, visit the Lone Star if you like that, honky tonk. There's a lot to see and do, and all of it's fun.
Well, I promised I wouldn't keep you too long because I know how busy you are, but what are some of the things and some of the vendors that people can expect to see? Just in a quick there, what what can we expect to experience this year?
I mean, it is a little hard to put into a small container because we have a lot. But we have had some of the folks that have been there since the beginning, like Mr. S Leather, and some of our adult companies that come and promote their wares, and other local businesses that bring things out into the street, like Wicked Grounds, which is a kink and leather coffee shop that also sells like custom made rope. And we have local corset makers. We have amazing, some of the most gorgeous handmade fashion you've ever seen. We're hoping to have this amazing person who makes masks and hats. I haven't signed them yet, so I won't name them. But these folks who are absolute artists and artisans. Also, we do have fine art artists on site as well, folks who have been creating amazing representation of our community, and they'll be out there selling their stuff. So if you need something beautiful to hang on your wall, or something beautiful to wear, something beautiful to play with, you will find it at Folsom Street for sure.
That is so awesome. Well, listen, Angel, I am so grateful that you did this for us, and I can't wait to come and see it. If there's anything that the FTK community can ever do, or if you ever need to get the word out to our membership, please don't hesitate. Just shoot me an email and we will get it out, okay?
Thank you so much. I'll absolutely send a special shout out for y'all that detail some of the things that will make coming to Folsom more fun. One of the things is we've just partnered with an app called Bloom, where you can go on and mark that you're coming, and then you can chat with other attendees. So you can get your cruising on before you're even at the fair.
That is awesome. Thank you so very much. Enjoy this Sunday, and we can't wait to see you.
Yeah, happy Father's Day or Daddy's Day, whichever one you like better.
I appreciate it very much. You as well. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.